morning, Grace Point. How is everybody this morning?
Fine, thank you.
Good. I hope that you guys are not getting too stir crazy at home, because I don't know about you, but this is about to make me crazy.
Is that right?
Yeah. Today it rained all day, and my husband then comes in and tells me it's going to rain again until tomorrow. So I know that we need the rain, and I know that we need to stay home, which is really the only thing we can do anyways. But we thought that we'd share some things differently and do our devotions differently and help you to get to know some of the people from our church maybe better that you don't know. So today we're going to talk to my dad. And for those of you that don't know, this is Chalmer, or he goes by Champ. And I'm going to give you a little bio about him, and then I'm going to ask him some questions about his relationship with Christ and following Jesus for all the years that he has. So this is my dad, and he's 96 years old. He was born in the southeast corner of Missouri on Christmas Eve in 1923. He was the fifth child to his parents that later had a total of 12 kids. His dad was a sharecropper, and that means that his dad farmed land that was owned by somebody else and paid the landowner part of the harvest when he sold the crops. When Dad was 12, they moved to California, and it took 5 days riding in a 1927 Ford two-door sedan. 3 people in the front and 6 people in the back. And I cannot imagine. And I guess, wasn't it weren't you like pulling a trailer, Dad?
Yes.
And so at night when the kids would go to sleep, they'd have all their bedding stacked up in the back of that trailer, and their furniture and all the soft things were on the top, and the kids would lay on the top of that, and they would sleep while they were still driving to California. So Dad's family had always gone to church, but he found the Lord at a camp meeting in August of 1946. So he had already met my mom, and my mom told him she wasn't marrying someone who wasn't a Christian. So even though he really knew who Jesus was his whole life, I guess he hadn't really surrendered his heart to him until then, right? He doesn't really know. He's like, well, I've always been a Christian, but I guess that was the day that he went down front and did it publicly, right? Yeah. So I want you to keep in mind that my dad has lived through the Depression, World War II, Pearl Harbor, Kennedy assassination, the Korea and Vietnam War, segregation, 9/11, Oklahoma City, and many other devastating events in the U.S. During all of these, his faith has remained strong, and he has always stayed true to following Christ. We want you to type in questions if you have any, and we can come back on another time and answer some of those questions. But some of you that maybe haven't been a Christian as long as my dad, obviously I haven't either, but may not quite grasp how is it that you can just be so committed and surrendered to Christ. So if that was 1946, then Dad, how long has that been? So 1946, and this is 2020. You've been a Christian for 46, 56, 66, 76, 86, 96, 06, 16. So that's 70 years plus 4 more, 74 years. So basically, as long as you've been married to Mom, you had really surrendered your heart to the Lord. So just a few questions that I wanted to ask you. And I think that these are questions that people that are believers need to really think about, and then people that maybe don't know Christ might be interested in knowing the answers to these. So the first question is, how has following Christ influenced your life and generosity to others? You've always been incredibly generous with your money, your time. As a kid, I can remember you telling me that, oh, you can't ever outgive God, and if you just will give to Him, He'll return it tenfold to you. So, I guess first is, how has following Christ influenced your life?
Well, I guess when I was 4 years old, that's when we moved to within about a quarter of a mile of the General Baptist Church. And that's the first time I heard that Jesus loved me. And that we should love Him. There's not much difference between the General Baptist Church and the Nazarene Church. So when we came to California the day I was 12 years old, when we got to Selma after 5 days, they had a big tent up and they were starting a church at Selma. And my brother had been in the church already some, and the pastor and his wife, who played the accordion, came, and I can remember us singing in our living room the first night that we got to Selma. And so from then on, I've been in church, no problem. Didn't have to get up every Sunday morning and say, now it's time to go to church, and Wednesday night, because we knew it. We would. Mm-hmm.
It was just what you did.
We wanted to go.
Okay.
My older brother didn't have to round us up and say, let's go to church. We were ready to go.
So do you feel like serving Christ has had a positive influence on your life?
Oh, sure. And more that I'm older, I talk with Jesus every day.
Right.
Time and time again, asking Him what I should do. Didn't have to ask what not to do, because all my training had been what not to do.
Mm-hmm. So you and Mom have been married for almost 74 years.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
In August, almost 74 years that she's put up with you. Can you believe that?
I didn't know she was that old.
Yeah, no, she's young. She's young, yeah. But do you feel like following Christ helped you in your marriage?
Oh, no doubt. We never had arguments. Mm-hmm. We never had what you call a cat fight in all those years.
Yeah, I can say
that's dumb.
I can't remember you and Mom ever not getting along.
Not even yelling at each other.
Mm-mm. I definitely don't remember that. And did you serve in the church?
Oh, I was a Sunday school teacher and board. I was on the board for a while.
Yeah, you were Sunday school superintendent.
Yeah.
As they used to say, we were at church every time the church doors were open. And that was Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, and usually at least another one time during the week, whether that was for a mission meeting or a training session or a youth or children's activity. We were always involved in whatever was going on at church.
And that was good. That was part of our life.
Right. But do you remember as a young married couple that was your go-to was to turn to Christ, to rely on Him, or was that just had become who you were as people? You had just totally committed to him. You were faithful in the church, and being faithful in the church, a byproduct of that was then faithful in your personal relationship with Christ.
Why, sure. That was part of it.
Do you feel like tithing is an important thing to do?
Why, sure.
Why?
Why? Because he gives me strength, Jesus does, to work or have a job. And it's only right to give 10% back.
Yeah.
So that's no problem. My wife writes a check every
month.
every first Sunday of the month.
Right. But what would you say to somebody that maybe doesn't tithe or is apprehensive about tithing? They love the Lord, they come to church, they try to live by the principles of a Christian, but what would you say to them if somebody hasn't tithed before? How would you encourage them to try it?
Well, I would just tell them that he helped you get the money, so you gotta be fair with Jesus and pay your tithe. That's what the church and the Lord ask of us.
Right. So it kind of sounds like for you, when you learned things, biblical principles, you just have accepted those as that's just the way it is. That's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah, why not?
Well, and don't you think your life speaks volumes for the reason you do it? Because God's faithfulness has been evident to you and Mom across the years. You have been able to be incredibly generous with your family, with friends, and whether that's generous with time, talent, or money.
Yeah.
Do you attribute that all to serving the Lord?
Sure. If I believe if we hadn't tithe and served Jesus, that we'd be in the poorhouse. Whereas now I think my wife has all the money that she needs.
Sure.
And it's hard for her to forget.
Yeah, the days of the depression and the days when you didn't have any. The days when you had 4 children and she was trying to figure out how to put dinner on the table. Yeah, for sure.
And even in those days, every Sunday we went out
to lunch.
To dinner.
Yeah.
To lunch.
So would you say that any sacrifices that you had to give up or give, that following Jesus has been worthwhile?
Oh my, way more. He's given back more than we have given. And when I go to heaven, I'll get to see him and tell him so.
Well, it's been awesome talking to you this morning. I know that there's no question that you love the Lord with all your heart, that you have been that example for me and my brother and my sisters, and for the grandkids and the great-grandkids. And if you have a question, if you have something that you would like to hear from him, it doesn't have to necessarily be related to Christ, but besides my mom, Jesus is his best friend, and that's who he would want to talk to you about. Feel free to type in a question and we'll get back to you another time with some other thoughts. But we love you, Grace Point, and I guess really what we want you to know from this is that you'll never be sorry if you give your heart to Jesus and you serve him.
Exactly, that's it. If you want to be happy in this whole life, be content and have help.
Right.
From Jesus, then you got to serve him.
Right.
And love him.
Don't forget to pick up your communion at the church office on Friday. I think the time was 11 to 12. And if you can't pick it up, be sure to call the church office and let Amanda know. We love you. God bless you and have a great day.
Thank you very much.